Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Daily Diatribe, where I pick one topic each day to have a little bit of a diatribe about. That's what it's about, Daily Diatribe, Monday through Friday on YouTube and iTunes. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for subscribing if you've chosen to subscribe. As you can see, I format changed it a little bit. I kind of backed away a little bit from the video component, but that's just more because I feel more comfortable just talking to a microphone, just having this microphone like right here, right near my mouth, and I just talk into it, and I can go places. I can kind of, it's just a comfort level thing, and I always liked talking. I always liked podcasting, and I thank you guys for responding to my cry of wanting to podcast more and more each and every day. So I got a good response to that on social media, and hopefully more podcasts will be coming your way in the near future from me and from some other people here. So today what I really wanted to talk about was the comic book series Invincible, which is about to end its run here soon, from what I understand. I didn't really get into it till about last week, to be completely honest with you. I subscribe to a service, Comixology Unlimited. It's $6 a month on Comixology, and it allows you to read a lot of comics. It doesn't have DC or Marvel, but it does have a lot of the others like Valiant and others as such, that I can't think of off the top of my head right now, because I'm terrible at thinking. Sorry, throat needs a little bit of clearing here. But anyway, the comic books have been going on since 2003, so it's been going on for over a decade, and I've read, at this point, the first 5 volumes of the comic series, which so far I really, really like it. They just announced the movie adaptation coming out, which will come out the next few years. I'm not sure, they haven't dated it or anything like that. I think it was just, I want to say it was optioned, and it looks like, it was like Seth Rogen and Evan Greenberg are going to adapt Invincible for Universal Studios, which is an awesome get. It's another property from Robert Kirkman, who also does The Walking Dead. So a lot of people know that name. A lot of people will be familiar with what he does. And the thing about Kirkman is he's very good at those human stories, and that's definitely what stands out, I think, in Invincible. At least from what I've read so far, it almost feels, in a way, like the superhero stuff takes a backseat, even though it is a superhero story, and that's what I like about the series. So it'll be interesting to see what Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg will do with it, because they've adapted comics before. They were the ones that adapted Preacher, and I really liked the first episode of Preacher, and I continue to let it pile up on the DVR and haven't watched the rest of it because I'm terrible at doing that. I tend to do that with a lot of shows, but I plan to watch that eventually, along with stuff like Legion, which I should also be watching. But yeah, Invincible. What I've read so far is really, like I said, it is a superhero story. Basically, it's about a teenager just about to graduate high school, and he finally, his dad's a superhero. He's known his dad was a superhero. He thought that he may one day get powers, and he finally does get his powers, and basically how he deals with that, and how the people around him deal with that, and it's really good, to say the least. I'm really enjoying it. I'm trying not to go too spoiler heavy, but there's a lot that happens in it, and like I said before, it's very much about the human side of things. It's about what are these regular everyday people, how are they coping with things in a world full of superheroes? How does that affect their lives? How does that affect their relationships with other people? Stuff like that, and it's really worth reading. I've been really enjoying the hell. I mean, I read like 5 volumes in a couple days before I figured I should take a break, and I've been reading some other stuff too, which I may talk about on a future podcast. But one topic daily diatribe. But yeah, I'm excited now. After reading quite a bit of the run so far, I think it's going to be really cool. And the thing about Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg is they've proved that they are good at adapting things, and which is really surprising, because 10 years ago I don't think anybody would have thought the dudes doing like predominantly stoner comedies would be the ones that would be taking these great comic book series and making them something to behold, something worth watching, a good adaptation that most people that read the comics and that sort of thing could really sink their teeth into, and feel like they complement the comic instead of ruining the comic, because we've definitely had those moments in older comic book history. See Batman and Robin, among others, that just haven't been great adaptations of comic books and comic book characters. But in the day and age we're living in, we get quite a few comic book movies a year with some great characters. And it's good to see that so far, for the most part. I mean, obviously you're going to get a few duds here or there, but for the most part, seems like the adaptations are going well, especially for Marvel. Maybe not so much for DC, but who knows? Maybe with Jeff Johns at the helm, they can take a turn for the better, which would be good for everybody. But Invincible, I mean, I don't want to sit here and just say it's great, but I also don't want to spoil it because I want people to read it. I mean, there's a ton of just betrayal in that first bit of that series, and it's heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking, because it's it's basically a hero being taken away from you, and someone you thought you could trust implicitly doing the wrong thing, or even though they may perceive it to be the right thing by them, by what they're doing, it's really the wrong thing in a moral standpoint, and it creates a big moral quandary for the main character, who goes by Invincible in his superhero form. But it'll be interesting to see. Mark Grayson's the character name there. But it'll be interesting who they cast, and what kind of adaptation we see, and how, I guess, how many issues they'll fit into a movie. I'd imagine they'll just go by story arc for the first movie. Maybe do the first story arc, and then I guess we'll see what happens from there. If it does well, I'm sure they'll keep making them. And we'll see how that goes. I almost wish it was a TV show instead, but at the same time, we have so many comic book TV shows that maybe it would be more better adapted as a movie. But I don't know. I just feel like TV nowadays is so much better than movies as a whole. I watch a ton of good television, and being able to tell a more complex story in like 13 or 24 episodes definitely has an advantage, because you're going to get, well, even as low as 10, but like even 10 to 22, 23, 24 hours a year to tell this story, so you can put a lot more nuance, you can put a lot more detail into the storytelling, a lot more character development, that sort of thing. So that's why I think I tend to like TV a lot more than movies. But that's kind of how it goes sometimes. So I'm very interested. After reading a lot of the initial run of Invincible, I really want to see what they're going to do with it. I want to see. I'm interested who they're going to cast. I want to see how these characters play out in a television setting as opposed to a comic book, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that remains to be seen. So, Invincible, you guys should check it out. Like I said, Comixology Unlimited has the first 4 volumes, I believe, available to borrow. So you could try out that service, which I really recommend if you like the stuff from like Dynamite and Valiant and Skybound and the other comic book companies that aren't Marvel or DC. I would definitely recommend it for that. It's also worth it to kind of dip your toes into those comics that maybe you're on the fence about, like, I don't know if I'm gonna like that, but you can now borrow one of those. But I would also suggest, maybe if you don't want to go that route, you could also try your local libraries. A lot of libraries, especially where I'm at, allow you to borrow that stuff, even digitally. At my public library here in Steubenville, they have a service called Hoopla, and what's all the hoopla about? I'm going to tell you. It's basically a digital download service that lets you download 15 digital things, movies, TV shows, comic books, etc. 15 of them per month, and that's how I got the 5th volume of Invincible as I was reading. So yeah, it's worth checking out. Otherwise, it seems like they're totally worth buying. So if you just want to go get some trades, head on down to the old comic book dispensary or Amazon. Everybody loves Amazon. You love Amazon. You know it. You use it. I bet you got Amazon Prime too. Look at you with your Prime dealings. Anyway, guys, that's all I got to say today. Invincible is a great book to check out, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for anything to do with it. And we will be back here tomorrow. Thank you for listening. I'm not sure yet what subject I'm going to talk about tomorrow. Had a couple things floating around in my head, but we'll see where I go with that. I'm hoping to have a guest on this week. The current plans point towards probably, but plans can always change. So I don't want to say I'm guaranteed to have a guest this week, but it's highly possible. And I just want to thank you guys again. And don't forget to subscribe. iTunes, YouTube. Links are in this on the website on spiderduck.net. And all that good stuff. All right, guys. Thanks.